Hamza Ahmed was quickly becoming one of the most prominent self-improvement creators online. There's no denying that he gives lots of great advice to young men looking to better themselves. But the story isn't complete without mentioning just how much he contradicts himself, refuses to admit he's wrong, and takes advantage of his cult-like audience to profit his own pockets. Hamza isn't exactly who he says he is, and we're going to tell you why. Hamza carved out a space for himself in the alpha male ecosystem around 2019 when he started his YouTube channel. One of his very first videos was titled 5-Year Weightlifting Body Transformation Natural, where he shared his journey of going from a skinny teenager to a buff young man with an impressive physique. A lot of his early content was just like this, harmlessly encouraging people to exercise and providing advice to help other guys his age improve their mental and physical well-being. His videos were comfortable to watch and offered realistic advice. He even had a viral video getting millions of views as he guided people on how to build an attractive body.
The majority of that weight will be muscle if you're training hard and you're quite new to the gym as well. You can still eat quite healthy with high protein and enjoy snacks and meals out whenever you want.
However, at this time, the views weren't coming in consistently for Hamza, so he tried a few different lanes and concepts. He didn't just talk about being physically fit anymore. He also started to make videos about dopamine detox, gratitude journaling, and meditation. That wasn't the problem. Those were all great things to talk about. The problem was that now he was beginning to pull statistics out of thin air without any sources.
Meditation isn't all spiritual and weird. In fact, pretty much every successful person has a daily meditation practice. 80% of the top CEOs meditate every single day.
Hamza was beginning to sound more and more unhinged while also getting more and more confident. His uploads became regular, and with his videos, he categorized men into two classes, the Jeffreys and the Adonises. Jeffreys, of course, being the loser guys who are either unfit, broke, or both, while Adonis being the Chad type of guy who exercises and follows Hamza's self-improvement plan.
Adonis wakes up to sunrise and starts his day, whilst Jeffrey stays in bed. Adonis breezes through his morning routine. He jumps into the icy lake, he meditates and he explores in nature. He picks out his favorite leaf. Jeffrey's still in bed. It's time to train. Adonis pumps iron. He looks up to his idols. He spots his brothers and helps them grow. Jeffrey's still asleep. It's almost the afternoon and time to break his fast. Adonis hunts down a boar by himself. Jeffrey's woken up after pressing snooze on his alarm 3 times. He stays in bed, grabs his phone, and proceeds to jack off. Adonis spends hours reading, learning, and contemplating, improving his mind.
By all of that, he basically means to say that he himself is Adonis and everyone else is a Jeffrey.
I'm better than like 99% of the people who are my age. I sound like a massive dick. You're not supposed to say that in this modern day, are you? Everyone's so pathetic these days that you're not allowed to say what is a blatant fact.
And from that point on, Hamza started to sound more and more narcissistic and insane. Good advice still existed in his content, but a lot of what Hamza was saying could be classified as incoherent rambling.
So you don't need to be like these ones that get put on the news when, you know, they've like shot up some school or something like that, because that's more of like a terrorist. That's more of like, you know, this dangerous criminal, killer, murderer, right? An incel simply is by definition just a guy who can't get laid, a guy who can't have sex with girls right now, a guy who's not getting attention from girls. If you get less than 10 matches a day on Tinder, which is more than 90% of men, then you're probably an incel.
Not only does he claim 90% of men are incels without any actual proof, he also proceeded to talk about an incel uprising and how it will most likely lead to more violent crime. It's nothing short of unbridled insanity. But, as you're about to see, it gets worse.
Would you penetrate yourself? If you wouldn't sleep with yourself, why would some other girl be so excited to sleep with you? Look at yourself and think, is that the guy that you want to penetrate you? Imagine you're a girl. Would you get down on your knees to the point that you've got some friction burn on your and suck your own?
All Hamza was trying to say here was simply that young men should work to better themselves and become more highly valued. And without doing that, no girl would be interested in them. But the way he says it comes across so badly that viewers would be genuinely confused by it. Hamza also has a habit of speaking about things that he himself clearly doesn't understand either.
If you put some of your money into a company like Apple, or you put it into like, you know, the big like index funds like Apple and like 500 different companies, you're giving them money to help them with their business, and you're hoping that since they think that you're a good boy, they'll give you a little bit more money in return. I think your PP size has to be very small for that, because if you understand this concept of investing, why would you invest in someone else's business instead of your own?
This guy really doesn't understand investing.
Hamza thinks it's an obligation to all the Jeffries to call them out for investing in big companies. He somehow doesn't realize why people would want to invest in multi-billion-dollar companies instead of their own, which is likely small and not off the ground yet. He also makes it sound mutually exclusive when it's not, because people could easily invest in their own businesses and in big companies as well. Not to mention, people who invest in big companies don't do it out of charity. They are actually looking for a return on their investment.
I'm gonna teach you some truthful, like somewhat dark shit, but you want a girl who's obsessed with you, bro? Make her feel all the emotions possible. Make her cry, make her happy, excite her, scare her, make her feel any emotion possible, disgust her, make her angry,
As you can see, some of the things that Hamza says just border on danger. There's no world where he is telling young men to make women cry or get angry, which can possibly end well. And if you don't quite believe the thing Hamza says are that dangerous, then think again.
This is gonna sound weird. You need to be hit in the face. I will repeat that again. As a young man, you need to be hit in the face consistently.
Any YouTuber who drops as much content as Hamza will surely say stupid things from time to time. But the problem is, he spreads misinformation on topics that could seriously impact the mental health of his viewers.
The rise of this message of telling men to open up perfectly correlates with the rise of male suicides. Less men kill themselves when we were masculine. The rise of this message being spread to men perfectly correlates with the rise of suicides. People don't realize how manipulative and evil this is. That I am seen as the bad guy for telling you to be stoic. When men were more stoic and more masculine back in the 1900s, suicide was less common.
From everything we've seen so far, Hamza definitely shouldn't be talking about suicide to his young audience. If it isn't overwhelmingly clear by now, he uses intimidation tactics and constant insults to emasculate his fragile audience. Because the more broken he can convince his audience the regular male is, the more likely they'll buy into his ideas of self-improvement.
20% of men are literally coming on their wall. Like 20% of men, they fat and they don't nut into tissues. They literally just do it all over the floor and the bed sheets. Like the bottom 20% of men are wall comers.
What?
It's literally because of this that he's able to get such a large following of over 2 million subscribers. His core audience follows his every word like gospel. And Hamza even calls himself the cult leader in the description of all his socials.
Oh, good question. If I wrote a book on how to start a cult, the first thing is you've got to be the cult leader. So every cult has a charismatic cult leader.
And it's because of that herd mentality that he's cultivated that he can just contradict himself time and time again without losing any of his cult followers. A while ago, he said he wanted to be a fighter.
Superior man would go and live in a fight camp. The superior man, the man who's really like on this, would literally go and live amongst the fighters and the warriors and live amongst them, eat amongst.
Then just 4 months later, Mr. Superior Man came back announcing that he quit after just a single day.
First day of being in this fight camp, I go and sit down and journal in my room. And I just ask myself a question, is this authentic?
But by far the worst offense from Hamza is his Adonis school. Hamza took yet another leaf out of Andrew Tate's playbook and monetized his cult following by establishing a self-improvement course. His Adonis school costs over $100 a month, and people who've managed to escape from it have some not so positive things to say about it.
Asking $100 per month. But wait, that's not the worst of it. Every 100 members that joined, the price would increase by $100 per month. Sadly, I was brainwashed and manipulated into joining at the ridiculous price of $400. And I can confidently say it was not worth the price, even though at the time I would have told you it was.
The things Hamza did to his loyal audience for profit seemed pretty evil. Even after charging up to $400 or $500 for the course and kicking out the lowest contributors, he still managed to do something 10 times worse and squeezed every last penny from his misguided followers.
This wasn't the end of the sketchy business decisions made by Hamza, as just 2 weeks later, he disbanded the school as a whole, wasting all of our time and money, just to reopen it and charge a $500 one-time entry fee. Now think about that. He kicked us all out, then rebranded the same product and made us pay another $500 to get in again. This is where I claim the first scam lies.
Biggest problem with Hamza is that he doesn't seem to understand how wrong he is on issues. He never apologizes and he never wants to admit he's wrong. When he comes under fire from his own audience from the ton of criticism he's been receiving, he made a community post addressing it. It reads, "You've changed. You haven't? You're on a self-improvement channel. If you think I'm going to be the same as 3 months ago, you're in the wrong place." But that's not the point, is it? He wants to make it at the scene that his flip-flopping is what's supposed to happen. But what he fails to recognize is that without him properly admitting that what he said prior to him changing his mind is wrong, then there's no way for his viewers to know not to follow that advice. Plus, if he knows that on a self-improvement journey that he's likely to change his mind and grow out of certain beliefs, then he should probably stop saying everything with the level of conviction that he does. These days, self-improvement content online can be a black hole for creators to profit off of their audience. Mixed in with some good advice is usually lots of insults for people who don't live the exact same type of life as these creators. Tons of self-contradictions and tons of lies. They offer advice and guidance for people to learn how to be a better man without ever really saying anything new or specific. Despite that, they still breed massive cult-like audiences who willingly do what they say and exploit that avenue to become richer. And without a doubt, one of the biggest offenders of this is Hamza Ahmed.
In general, unless they follow me, are weak. The only strong men in this entire country, in the entire West, are just the ones who are part of my cult, who have followed my advice and become strong from that. Every the guy here is basically just a pussy. They're all just weak as